Now we're working on developing the Jett 50 motor, doing some Brodak dope tests, and some miscellaneous shop projects here that we hope you'll enjoy sharing with us. And we hope you'll be able to put this information to some positive use right away in your modeling life.
Now, what I've been trying to explain to people and trying to do in a very subtle way, what I'm trying to accomplish here is I'm trying to arrive at a database. Now, this is like kind of a really primitive flow chart here, but if people understand what I'm trying to accomplish, then maybe watching the tapes they'll be more effective. Obviously, at the top of this whole thing is Dub Jett, George Aldrich, and the quality motor. Well, somewhere down the road, I come into this, and me with the testing and the videos, but that's not really the part we're looking to really take advantage of, because I'll have this figured out for myself in due time, and I'll get as much as I can directly into the database. But what I'm trying to do is people like Rich Jacobone, who already has a piped version. Now, I hope I'm saying this right. Dennis Choate, he has a muffled version he's going to send me to test. Bill Hummel has a side exhaust. So you see, what we have is one of each. And what I can start to figure out in every one of these tests is what props are going to work, what venturis are going to work, what glow plugs are going to work, what head shimming might or might not work the best. And in this whole database, what we have is people like Wayne Triven and Dennis Toth that are contributing props into this, because all of this is useless if you don't have the right prop. The venturis, we have a nice selection of venturis. Plugs, we have the 4C Thunderbolt, the RC Thunderbolt. A nice selection of head shims now from George, of course. The constants that we've had in the program so far, and this goes over, I don't know, 6 or 8 tapes. The 5% Taffender fuel, 64-ounce test model Strega, 70-foot solid lines. So what we have is all of this is ultimately bleeding down into what I hope is going to be a database, so that what I'll know is from all of these people, when Rich finishes his plane, we'll have information on that ship, how it trimmed out, what prop worked the best. Same thing with Dennis with his muffled version. Same thing with Bill with his side exhaust. I'm hoping to gather all this data from as many people, and obviously these are not the only people. I'd like this line of the graph to go out infinitely with anybody that really is interested in adding into our database for the Jett 50. We ultimately hope we're going to have a little chart, a nice little article for Stunt News, information on the video. Some people prefer to watch video rather than read, and we'll have all this boiled down maybe by the end of the month into a use this prop on this model, use this fuel, use this blank, 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 where we really will have something that we can make a solid contribution to the world of stunt. But it all has to start with people contributing information, and it all has to wind up through whatever channel, wind up down at the database. And when we have that database and we know what prop is going to go on the muffled version, what venturi is going to go in Bill Hummel's engine, what head shim worked out in Rich Jacobone's plane, what to do if you want to use the 3-bladed prop, what plug to run, and blankety blankety blank. If it's all in the database, this is a significant contribution. Now, the thing that's already been done is this whole thing has been done for Tiger 60s. If you want to set up a Tiger 60, it's idiot-proof, because it's been done for 20 years. People have been putting information into the database, and it's been shared by everybody. There's probably the equivalent database for other engines that I don't have access to. But I know one thing. I know by the end of this year and well into next year, we are going to have an ever-growing database of how to get these engines to run exactly how you want them, how to get the run characteristics, the power level that you want. I'm sure it's going to be an ongoing thing, getting information into that database, and I hope everybody that has one of these will contribute. Okay, I brushed on the second coat, and it's 2 coats. That's about what it should look like. And what I wanted to try to do here, I wanted to do this on a real sunny day, but it's not going to happen. It's raining again. Anyway, 2 coats, that's about what you should look like, and we'll wait and see how that's going to shrink up. Of course, the silk span all gets baggy between coats, but notice how nice the material lays down. That's the most beautiful feature of this, is how quick it fills and how nice it lays down. Okay, tell me what you were looking at here. This is Rich Jacobone's Cardinal wing.
Right. Yeah, this is
That he apparently has a lot of concern about.
This is what I was looking at. If you put it like this,
Okay. Alright, this is the part of the table, it's level. Let's see how much it's out. You see it? 1/16 of an inch. Okay, so all you need to do is just
sand it.
put a sanding belt, we'll glue a sanding belt
That's
to
what
the
I have.
table.
I have the sand it back and forth.
See, if you sand this on a table, what you'll do is make a banana out of it.
I know that.
You know, you gotta go this way. Now, if you go this way, you wind up doing this.
Rocking it.
Right, and it'll be worse. So what you have to do is get the belt and then go this way. Okay, so just so you know that. Okay, you got the belt crank in?
Well, I don't really. It's in there on a temporary basis. I just
Okay.
wanted you to look at it because
You want to put the lead outs on.
Yeah,
You don't want to
yeah.
put it in and put the push rod on before you put it in
exactly.
there.
This is just in like this.
And had that aluminum rod work out. Pretty good? All right, beautiful.
I straightened it out though. It wasn't.
Yeah, well, it looked like it had a kink in it.
Yeah, it did. It had a little.
Okay, cool. Let's look at this. I'm impressed. We used one of Midgley's little Teflon, these are little Teflon tubs. And when the epoxy kicks off, we're making a crutch here. You can just pretty much, it'll stick to itself. And you can use it over and over again. You can clean it up. Just use it like a blotter. Real handy to have. They came from Dave Midgley. And they're free. That's the part I like. That's the part Jacobone likes. Anyway, look at that. That's nice. Okay.
Beautiful. Look at it.
We made a crutch. Rich had made a crutch, but one of the pads was twisted and it was a little crooked, so what we did, we framed up an extra one. So we get his Cardinal. This is the first Cardinal that's being built as a dedicated Jett 50 rear exhaust plane, so we sure want this to be perfect. We don't want to have any chance this is going to be a pretzel. That's a beautiful motor, you got to admit it. Okay, once this dries, we'll trim this all off. We know where the tank shim is, so we know we can even glue part of that tank shim right into place. This is the official first Cardinal ever built. And here's the man. He needs a crutch, a mental crutch. Anyway, it's a Jett 50, of course, and a real nice crutch. Actually, it's nice because this motor you don't even need adapters in. The wing is coming out nice. He's a little concerned. He's got a little bit of a. You could take the roof out. It doesn't even matter. Not enough. A foam tail. What else? A Strega canopy. What else? Push rod. All made. So in a couple hours tonight, you got a lot done here.
No crank, lead outs.
I'd say that's pretty good. These laser cut ribs work nice, don't they?
They're beautiful.
Beautiful.
They're beautiful.
All right, but this is what I like. Now this, next time I see you, you'll have the body in one piece.
Correct.
And we'll mold up a top block. That'll be beautiful. This is dope that's, well, probably 12 hours old. But what I want to show, and this is the most significant gain that you can ever have, is that when dope is less than 24 hours old and you can turn it into powder without making it chewing gum, you have got a significant gain. Now what this means is I'll be able to get, this is 220 sandpaper, I'll be able to just dust this off, get the fuzz off, not trying to get a good sanding or obviously you'll go right through. Dust this off, get another coat on there. Again, we are really itching to get started working on this I-beamer. We have about 2 weeks left in the fly-in season to do some motor testing and one more contest. So basically we're going to start emphasizing getting a lot of these little projects going that we were saving for the winter, and one of them is, the first one is get all these dope tests done. That is sanded, it really sanded out beautifully for the first sanding, again with 220. There's no point in sanding it out with any finer sandpaper because we're going to go out. What I'm going to do is try to set this up later this afternoon when it gets a little warmer out there. It's really cold. Set it up and spray a couple of coats on this just for another part of the test. Anyway, that did really work out well. Plus we're one part further ahead on getting the new Spitfire into the air. Now this is the Rejuvenator Test. This was 5-year-old dope. Now, I really put this on nice and thick, just brushed it right on, but you can see that it's done the job it's supposed to do because it's raised the little grain in the wood. Now what that tells you is that the Rejuvenator penetrated down into the grain of the wood. So this whole surface, now I just happened to email George this morning, George Woodrich, and he had told me pretty much that this goes down and plasticizes the whole finish. And I have no reason to doubt it now because I see it. This didn't show up until this morning. Now you may be thinking, oh gee, negative thing, I got to rebuff the plane up. But just think about it. That whole finish is now plasticized. It's nice and smooth. How nice that would be over an open bay plane if you had cracks over the silk span on the bays. What a significant thing that would be. And this is less than 24 hours old, by the way. This is, maybe 20 hours old. Trying to do is, I got some M600, piece of 1200 sandpaper. What I did, I put a piece of tape over half of this part. It has the Rejuvinator on it. Because what I want to do, I want to see how this sands out. Again, not even 24 hours old. Now one of the thoughts I had, and somebody out there I may have to do the test myself if nobody out there does it before then. I wonder if in the course of finishing, say, an ordinary plane, if you couldn't just use the last coat of clear as Rejuvinator anyway, because it has the extra plasticizer in it. So if we find out, if somebody has a test plane in the club here we can try, I would be willing to try that because it seems like this material sands out just pretty reasonably anyway. Thought had occurred to me that the other part that we did the clear on seemed to fog up a lot quicker than the part that we did with Rejuvinator. And what that's telling me is they have a higher penetrating level. The material penetrates more and dries slower, and therefore it doesn't trap the moisture. So it may be we're going to find some other uses for this. I'm really excited about this material. I think the original person that mentioned using this material to me was George Woodrich, and at the time I thought, well, what are we going to use it for? You know, it's nice having this, but like if you have a tub of Gorhams and you don't know it's good for buff and paint, what good is it? You have to find the uses for it. And I want to see if this is going to, now remember, this is highly plasticized, so this would be great to have over a silk span area. Just get an idea how long it takes to get this to come up, if it's going to be the same, equal to. So there is, and don't let anybody kid you, there is nothing like Gorhams. Real Gorhams, I don't know what the hell is in real Gorhams, but I get all these test things in the mail to try, and nothing even comes close. That seems to have a real, I don't know. Let's see if we can pull up the paint here so you can see the unbuffed side and the buff side. Now I'm going to mail these parts to John. I hope he will pass them on to Frank McMillan for his own, and with the video, of course, so that we can be sharing this information. It's very, very important that we share it in this first year that Brodak Dope is going to be out, that anybody comes up with some little tips or tricks, and this is Rejuvinator now. That's not clear dope, that's Rejuvinator. And it takes a buffing beautifully. It does a good job of penetrating, and seems to take a wonderful buffing. So hey, again, more on that. The only thing I want to get retarder. I got to get a gallon of retarder, because what's happening is on these real humid, rainy days, I have a problem with, especially being I'm in a cellar here, and as the temperature gets colder, it's going to be more and more of a problem. But that's a real nice finish. I think most people would be happy to have that on their plane. 24 hours after it was done, too. This is the test piece that we did, and you can see the brush marks in this. Now what I did, I had to go back over this with more clear and with more thinner, but it still just is on the verge of blushing. But again, I'm sure this will buff right out. I want to do the same test, divide it in half, see how one half buffs out, and then pass it on to John and Frank. Share the information. That's the key to all success. Again, the material with the M600 and this is 1200 just seems to sand right out. Not even 24 hours old, where a lot of times if you were doing this with competitive material, you got to wait a long time before it sands out easily. So one of the real time savings in any finishing is not having to have extensive drying times. And the dope seems to buff up, geez, if not as easy as 380S. I shouldn't say as easy, because the 380S is probably the easiest material on the planet to buff. But this seems to have the edge up on it. And I'm sure if you wait a little while for it to dry, it'll only get better. I mean, this has been drying in a damp cellar. This has not been drying out in the sunlight. Again, I don't know how much better than that you can reasonably expect the material to buff out. I mean, in all my days of painting motorcycles and boats and guitars and stuff, it was unheard of to have this kind of dry time. And this is the clear. I don't know. I don't know how. That looks pretty good to me. Now this is almost funny. This stuff is sanding. This is the white undercoat primer. And I imagine if you're doing a white airplane, obviously, or a light colored plane, this is what you want to try using. Talk about sanding. Wow. Again, another material that's new to us, and we really need to find out exactly what the best use for it. Again, our base here was clear and primer. Boy, that's a pretty reasonable surface for primer. Give you an idea how nice that primer sands out, almost like paint. And you can see the little imperfections here. Now obviously we want to sand down through till we get it perfectly flat, but that's brushed on primer. Now for a profile body, I mean, that would make it real quick. You can see your finger reflecting in the primer. Using all 1200 paper to sand this, I want to try a piece of 600. Again, what we're really looking for here is that ability to get a good substrate down real quickly, especially on something like a profile fuselage. Being able to do it quickly. I can see the grain starting to come up, so I know I have most of it. Yeah, the 600, that might be a suggestion. The 1200 is a little too mild for cutting a primer, so maybe if you're using this white undercoat primer, what you want to consider doing is doing some 600. Again, I wouldn't put this material over any open bays. I would use it for solid wood areas, flaps, profile fuselages, but I wouldn't want to have this over open bays. This would just be, there's nothing to fill on open bays. Fill the grain with raw dope is the way I've been doing it. Anyway, let's just see how long this takes, because how long it takes is always the biggest part of the equation. If you had infinite time, it wouldn't matter if you put 1,000 coats on, but most people with a family and a job and whatever, they want to get this part of it over with as soon as possible. And a lot of people just don't like to finish. They're just not, well, for whatever reason. Some people don't like spaghetti. Great analogy. Anyway, here comes the grain. No silk span on this, just the grain. Clear dope. And I have the one to test. See how quick this is coming off? Keep it soaked with M600. Anytime you use M600, make sure it's well ventilated. We have a fan going here to ensure that that's going to be okay. You can always use this stuff that drips and drools onto the table. This does wonders for cleaning your hands too. Before I get all the way down, I want to show this on the close-up. You always want to clean this off as well as you can. Let's get a little candle job going here. So can you see down into the grain? There you go. Look down into the grain. That's about how much you would want to leave on. Just what's in the grain. ultimately. So you see you're coming down to it here, coming down, and then you just quit. I'm just closing in on having the last little bit of this sanded out. Again, you wouldn't want to leave the whole surface coated unless you possibly put on a very thin spray coat and use it as a blocker coat. But in this case, we're not going to spray it, we're going to brush it. So we don't even care about that. And the fact is, most of the colors have so much pigment in them, you're really not going to need much of a base coat. But we'll find that out for sure firsthand. This might be a good indication of how much you want to leave on there. You look up into the grain and see the little spots. You can candle it, you can see a little reflection, you've got it nice and smooth. Say this was a profile body, I'd be comfortable leaving that amount on. The test we did with the Rejuvinator over 4-pound wood over raw wood was the Rejuvinator. I put on a coat of primer just to see. Not much to see here. Just using the Rejuvinator as the base coat. Now, there may be an advantage to this. The advantage might be, remember how this penetrated into the grain and did that great job of swallowing the grain? Well, maybe the base coat of all the finishing ultimately should be Rejuvinator. See, we're going to work toward that. We got to try it. We got to do the experiments, but this will be one of our experiments now, and I'll pass that on when that's all sanded out and painted. Just a little bit extra on here because I want to repaint this. I want to put some paint over this, but just give you an idea of what that surface looks like when light is candled off it. See that light reflecting off it? Just get a light to reflect it, and you can find all your little mistakes that way.
Beauty of any little rubbed out surface, you can see what I'm trying to get at, is how nice the light reflects off the ribs at different angles. And so I really have spent a little time here trying to get this is the first sanding out, trying to get this nice, get a nice airfoil shape in that. I want to go spray a coat of that clear on now. Just from this point on, possibly I can just spray the clear on. Okay, I got that spray drying out there. What I wanted to do is, this is the part that's had the clear and been sanded. The primer's been sanded. I want to see how this is going to go over the primer. Remember, you're only leaving the primer right basically in the grain anyway. You're not leaving a coat of primer on. And we can put this outside to dry. This really is a cold day out there. It's really surprising. The weather has just changed in a heartbeat here. What I want to do, this fillet block, I want to use Rejuvenator because of the high penetration and how it swells the wood grain, just as a test to go over the air epoxy. And of course this is just a test. The other side, I'm going to put clear. And then I can do something, if one side pops, one side doesn't, I can lay it out in the sun. And that'll be the best test of all, is just, you know how models, the minute you put them in the sun, they seem to have problems with paint lifting. Now, one thing about the Rejuvenator is it has an odor that's very unmistakable. Now that I've used it X amount of times here, it absolutely has an odor. Even I don't like the odor, so you know there's some chemistry going on here. I've been trying to get these parts outside as soon as possible. Anyway, this will be an interesting test with the Rejuvenator. The Rejuvenator usually goes right down in, swells the wood grain up. We'll compare that clear with the Rejuvenator side. Well,
remember Doran from the Nats. Doran, we still love you, baby. We finally returned the tapes that I loaned him. Anyway, Doran, we know you love us. He sent some pictures of his new ship underway in bare wood. Looks real nice. And the one thing we don't want to see this year, Doran, is I don't want to have to fix your plane. He's flying advanced now, and he sent me in a nice set of pictures from the last contest. He said he won advanced. It's pretty cool. It's Gary Hayjack, of course, from the St. Louis area. Beautiful plane, PA-61. He doesn't say whose plane this is. Beautiful plane, though. Looks like an old Crusader design. Doran, you gotta write captions, man. Okay, this one is Bill Corkin's Magnum. Tell you, we had so much fun with Doran. You can't imagine some of the meals we had with the waitresses in the restaurants were loving him. They were begging him to take a shower by the end of the week. He was sleeping in the trunk of his car. I mean, we just had so much fun. Dan McEntie's Magnum. Such a lot of fun on a day like today. Not going to get any flying in, but oh, here we go. No caption again. Doran, you're in big trouble. I've seen that plane before. I just can't picture whose it is. Doran's Intrepid Wing. Hey, here you go, Doran. Looks like he's doing some good building, and boy, he's been watching a lot of videos. Doran's Intrepid Note, the carbon fiber reinforcement on the fuselage. Doran, I hope you put plywood doublers in that. Plywood doublers, not balsa wood. Anyway, here's somebody we know, Chris McMillan. Even though there's no caption, we know Chris's plane. This plane was built in my Union Avenue house when Chris lived with me in the 1989-1990 area. Beautiful front row plane, Super Tiger 60 power. Hey, we haven't seen Chris since he's gotten married. I don't know what's going on. A real pretty SV-11, again, no name. I'll read this caption. This is my Intrepid in original condition, much better than what you saw at the Nats, isn't it? Cowl is missing. Doran. Yeah, that's pretty. Okay, you got some trim on that now. Got a little trim going there, a little canopy action. Okay, he says he doesn't know who this is, but the guy was eating hot dogs from morning till night. I don't know who it is. I can't recognize him. Anyway, hey, Doran, thanks a lot. Oh, that's Alan Brickhouse. Just kidding, Al. We knew all along. Anyway, Al really did a great job at the Nats. Hey, we got to give him some thanks. Oh, look, he's got his, as if, give me a clue, Alan Brickhouse. Anyway, Al, hey, and by the way, we celebrate Christmas around here too. Anyway, thanks a lot for the pictures, Doran. I'll tell you what, Doran, I'll send you another box of videos, but try not to keep them like a year, you know, a couple months maybe. All right, Doran Murasow, the first intermediate winner of the Nats ever. Today's mail, I got something that really blew me away. This is from Milton Graham in California. Hope I'm saying his name right. Anyway, he sent a nice little letter congratulating me on on being Mr. Universe. Anyway, what's real significant about this is I've been looking, and I've been, of course, already planning there's a beautiful picture, by the way, framed and everything. This came in a box. I thought my wife ordered another doll, but what this did that was really significant is it really gave me another choice on paint jobs. Now, I've always liked, we have two of the camo green ones, and I thought, wow, now, this would really be nice to have one. This is a later model. I think this is the one Joe likes, too, in fact. But it's in shades of brown, and since we're not doing semi-scale, we can use a late model camo finish. It's got a nice rendition of the exhaust, the 5-bladed prop, the real big parabolic spinner. Another thing too, this one, the bottom of it is painted a very, very light gray instead of the light blue. So again, it gives us a lot more choices. Now, one of the things that's real neat about this is, with any Spitfire, and we're going to be starting a little bit, by the way, the rudder, it's sitting looking at the rudder, this rudder dried up, if you can see this on the video, just perfect. I think the Brodak dope is just going to be the wave of the future here. All our little tests, the test on this, the test of the primer, the test of the clear, the Rejuvinator, all real nice. And again, I'm going to do a little buff out on this just to make sure that it buffs up. We're like 48 hours after putting the paint on. I want to be able to buff it out. All that stuff with the waiting 6 weeks for dope to dry. Anyway, but I love the picture. Milton, I'll tell you, I gotta tell you, that is one of the things that's going to help me really finalize a really, really beautiful paint finish. That's one of the choices I've always thought about. Obviously never did yet. And some of the other things like the cowl line shows here, the Zeus fasteners, the cannons, the red tape over the machine gun. Having these pictures is so invaluable, so nice. Anyway, I have a little bit of time here, and I want to get working on this Brodak dope stuff. Milton, if you see a brown Spitfire at next year's Nats with a Jett 50 in it, you'll know it's your fault. Thank you.
We will be putting this in a place of honor. Look at the detailing. Look at that prop. A lot of good the scoop details. Again, this is a late model one. Bubble canopy version. But again, there's no reason we can't use these colors on an early model one. We're not building a scale model. We're building a fantasy model. And you were already dreaming of paint jobs. Things to come on that I-beamer, boy. I really hope that's going to be a special model, especially with the Jett 50 up front. So much for that glow plug. That's gone. What's in here? I don't know. We'll put a Thunderbolt in here. Get rid of this. It's the first part. First part of this is Dennis's motor, and we're trying to run it in for him. I got a couple of runs on it already, but the glow plug is definitely not doing us any favors. In fact, when I got the motor, the glow plug was loose. So maybe on purpose that George put some oil in there, I don't know, but it really has seated in real nice. But we're going to put a brand new T-bolt in there now. What I was having luck with, George, was the 4-cycle, Thunderbolt 4 cycles. I guess you guys use those in RC, huh? Anyway, we're down at Kenny's shop here running this motor in today. Hoping that had good luck with Thunderbolt and Thunderbolt 4 cycles, both.
like the only problem, where's that ring? Like the only problem with that is that the plug that was in the engine may have just been a, well, first, tightening it up, of course, is a good idea. I always like to break in these type of motors with the muffler off. Now we've got a couple of runs on this. I want to put the muffler on and then check the usable RPM range. It seems like with the plug that was in there, it wouldn't go down. It was down about 8,000 here, real comfortable and smooth. Starts on the first flip every time. It never doesn't start right up. Okay, want to put the muffler on, and I don't know about the restriction on the muffler. Until we do this test, I won't really know. Here at the shop, as we ran the motor, long enough that these break right in. I don't know. It's certainly not a full gallon of fuel. This is a prop I've used in the past. It's a 12.4, and it seems like a good prop for this engine. I'll give this prop back to Dennis he can run it and get his. The motor seems to be real comfortable turning this, and probably this is truly a 5-pitch. I haven't measured it, but I know I have marked on it very low pitch. We're going to run a series of props on it and try to get some kind of an idea of where this motor is happy. It seemed like it was real happy down to about 8,000 and up to about 10, somewhere in that range with the muffler wide open. We'll find out. The muffler, usually the way I gauge a muffler, run the motor without the exhaust, run it as hard as it'll go, take a tach reading, bolt it on, allow yourself 100, 200 RPM, maybe even in a stretch 300, but anything higher than 300, this would have to be opened up. And I notice what's nice about the way these are made, there's plenty of wall thickness that can be opened up. For sure, putting that rubber restrictor on there will really restrict it, but again, and the sad thing is I don't have a gasket. I didn't have time today to make up an extra gasket, but I'm going to have to get one of those eventually during this testing if I want to seal that up nice and tight. I can take the props that I've been using on the pipe jet, run them against this, and get a rough reading of what the gain or loss is in the pipe. Now this motor feels, this of course is a relatively new motor. It's got that tightness at the top. A lot of people are not familiar with that. If you're used to using ring engines, that can kind of get you, ooh, it even faked me out many times when I was doing double star 40s and 60s. That squeak, can you hear that? That's how nice and tight these are at the top. Really, really nice workmanship on these motors. That outlet hole.
Looks like 28,
No, 284 is the
284,
number.
okay.
You're not reading it right. It's the dot. You read from the dot over. 284 sounds like for sure on the small side. Do it again. That can't be 284. Make sure you have it right in the middle. Okay. Machinist in train, 300. I can believe 300, 310. Do it again. I'm glad you know how to cut foam wings, because you wouldn't make it as a machinist. You're worse than me.
I am not a machinist. I'm not a bookkeeper.
Get it into the machinist in training. Oh man, okay. Now take it out carefully. Don't move it as you take it out.
2865.
It can't be.
What do you mean it can't?
George, measure it. He can't.
George doesn't know how
George
to
is a
do it.
mason. What's he gonna measure with
Wait a
a
minute.
shovel?
Let's
We're doing this on purpose just to have fun. Come on.
let's get a size here.
You guys don't fool around.
You guys are better at mixing cement than do it. I'm glad I'm around here to do the high quality work we need. George Aldrich ever sees this tape, he's gonna die. You guys don't know anything. You don't even know how to read a micrometer.
George made this.
It's all out of work. Look, it's not even there. Oh, you better leave it at my house.
Tighten that nut, huh?
George, they're just having fun with you. See, you gotta have fun when you do. These things get long and boring, believe me. believe me, we've been doing this for about an hour. We're getting a little bored, getting silly in fact. The muffler sounds real nice, has a nice sound. Well, that doesn't sound like a stunt motor. I don't know what is. Things Bill Hummel has told me is his motor 2.4s like crazy, like a Tiger 46 or a 60. This is about as close to being a Tiger 46 as anything I've ever seen, but at least the characteristics. And the needle, there must be about 2 turns of needle on this. I would love to see somebody build, and Jack of Bones already building it, a 4051 Cardinal with this motor. This really has a nice 2.4 brake. Wow. Now, I'm just not sure. Again, you won't really know this until you put it in a plane. I don't know what the real restriction should be, it would be, it could be back there, but I certainly would never put one of those little rubber things on there. That will definitely kill it. I want to run a little series of tests on props that I know. This is the prop we use basically for the breaking it in. It's a 12.4 AHM and it's got a riff. In fact, they even have it marked very low pitch. I'll pass this on to Dennis to see if he can use it in breaking in the motor more, or if he wants to try it on a plane. We still have some of these in stock if he needs to get a couple for his Air Force. Well, I know typically you get a high RPM increase with the A8 with the age. These are, glad I can tell the size here. I can't even read it without my glasses. It's 11.5.4 APC. Have us flip one of these props barehanded. Wow, what a mistake. These are... Not enough prop load, not even close. It's turning it into a pipe motor. See, now as you increase the prop load, it's a good idea to open that needle up just a little bit. So you get it to start on a first flip. Now you could hear even from the sound that prop is overloading the motor more than I'm comfortable with anyway. I'm sure George would agree. Again, I want to go through my props and I'll try to get a couple that just seem like they're loading the motor the right amount. A critical thing, because if you don't have the right prop on a plane, and obviously the thing then is to get the prop that flies the plane the best too. This one's overloading it way too much. Props that I have in the past I've had good luck with. They're 11 and a half, 6 and a half. This is one that we've already used, so I should assume this is going to give me a good idea. This is a lot of pitch if it's happy pulling a lot of pitch. Because that 12.4 is really, really a 5-pitch prop. This is really like a 6-pitch. Stuff seems time consuming, and we really are eating up the better part of an afternoon. But when you have the prop right, this at least is the minimum I can do now that we have the motor running. Actually, we were really having some fun before. We were going to send George Aldrich a video of taking a prop and breaking it and leaving the glow plug out, and I said, nah. You got to realize a lot of practical joking goes on around here. Okay, now we know the other prop was overloading it. This is probably going to have to go, well, we'll see. You want to know that ahead of time. If you're using a 2-lead needle valve setting, let me just say this because this is really an important thing. What happens a lot of times, and I found it even on the pipe motors, I go in on the needle and then I get it a little bit too lean, and then it really doesn't want to start on the first flip. It really is finicky. Now it's going to be finicky now because I ran it dry on fuel, but typically when it's cool, it is always a real easy starter. Running this engine, they made me go buy coffee. Anyway, it's nice and cool now, and I have 2 good props here, but I want to continue testing. It looks like it may rain, but so he has at least 3 choices of prop when he gets this engine back. And boy, it is ready. This is a beauty. This test is only for one reason. I know this is a prop that I've used on my Tiger 60s over and over again. I call this my load prop. When I want to set an engine up to 2.4 on the ground, this one simulates the load that a normal 60 plane would put on an engine. Now if it overloads the engine, we'll just shut it right off, that's for sure. Yeah, now that's too much load. That really is. That is one that really loads up a 60 even to the max. Okay, so at least we know where we're dealing. We're dealing on the lower side of the 60 props. Tell real fast. If you have to really open up the needle, and then when you close the needle back in, you're not getting any of your brake. You're just basically loading the engine and making it sag. You know that prop, even in the air, is not going to unload that much. you want it to at least have that friendly needle where it 2 4s and everything on the ground before you even start putting a plane in the air. You put one of those big giant props on this engine, you're only going to hurt the engine. That's the only thing that can happen. Now this is a prop I know worked good on a Tiger 51. That's pretty close to being what I want. I got the needle range, and when I go into the 2-cycle part, it doesn't go in and then just go, oh, and then sag down. Now this prop I know has a lot of flights in it. It's 12 inches, but it's a cut down 13. So it's going to load the motor just a little more than the 12 that started out to be a 12. Something, I got a little black book with the book on the side. You got that car? All right, 1 second.
I don't know how you like your coffee.
Well, again, I'm real concerned with getting the prop load right, especially until I find out about that exhaust restriction. Too much prop load. Now see, as I had to go out on the needle and on the way back in, rather than picking up RPM, when it hit that break point, it kind of sagged. You hear that sagging sound, and you know, at least I know at this point in time, this prop has too much load for this engine. So we can skip this one. Next part of the test, we have plenty of runtime on the engine. It's nice and free. What I want to do is get with the prop we know is working as good as it can. Look at these jets going over today. We're right by Teterboro Airport. Hey! Before I was so rudely jetted upon, what I want to do is, I want to get a maximum 2-cycle reading with the muffler on. Take the muffler off and see what the gain or loss is, as the case may be. Whenever you're doing this and you go to the next part of the test, always open up the needle a little bit, or else you may be already in the too lean part of the cycle here. highest you got is 93 now. Now let me put the muffler on and see what kind of reading we get.
Real insensitive with the needle.
Anyway, what I'm trying to establish is we got this up to 93 with the test prop, one of the props that looks like it's going to be one of the ones you wind up using. 93 wide open. Let's see what the gain or loss is with the muffler. Should be real cut and dry. What'd you get, an 86? 86 the highest?
86
All right.
highest.
Well, what that's telling me is the muffler is on the restrictive side. So, all it means is there'll be a gain when you open up the tailpipe. Some anyway. Anyway, we have spent pretty much the whole afternoon. Oh, I get this one. This was why I didn't have the reamer on. The whole afternoon testing this stuff. Dennis, I hope this works out for you. I'm going to write down all my findings. Yeah. No, the cones come off of these.
I know, but you got this.
Yeah, see what happened? This is a good thing to keep in mind. See, I didn't have a reamer with me. I didn't ream the prop out. Many weeks since we've been down at Kenny's shop. He's buried in foam, but word is he's been playing with the fish too much. Where's the fish? No, oh, he's not even getting big. You can't make any money unless you have fish. Can't look. Hey, he's nice.
This is a nice one.
Okay. All right, so what's new? What do you got to show us? You got any more new equipment?
I got a mess here. I have boxes of cradles ready to ship.
Ready to ship?
Ready to ship.
Steve DeJulia's wing coming out of the cradles tomorrow. Prowler kits and pieces.
These are the first run of Prowler kits. I'll finish the last
Prowler wings everywhere.
Hardware will be in next week, so we'll start.
And you got a whole new foam cutting machine coming, or is it already here?
It's not here. It should be here next week, and I'm trying to automate this process. It's so difficult to get them perfect, and I want them to be perfect. And I find that, well,
You got to watch out for DeJulia. He's a fussy customer. One kink in that wing,
I mean,
they'll pull the electrical plug on you.
Viper bike wings, and they're really nice.
High aspect.
On the last cut, got to jump in the wire, have to start over.
Okay.
A couple hours work. I want to get that.
You got plenty of Prowlers coming out soon?
Yeah.
I know Mazzoni's been asking me about
The total run of
Prowlers.
25 this time, and these are the first 6 or 8.
Okay.
So,
And this guy, we got to get back to working on him.
see, we got lots of.
We'll apologize to John. It's my fault. Don't listen to anybody else. Hey, I just been so busy.
All Wendy's fault.
Hey, Wendy will take a fall for Ken here. take a hit.
And,
Okay.
the paperwork isn't burying me yet.
And my top 5 photo is coming. I mean, Julia, look. In fact, Julia thinks I'm kidding. Here's Ken's 2 biggest project. Wendy's top 5 photo, and Julia's waiting for his one.
Oh, we can see
Oh,
orders. I got orders. They're coming in. I got, things
cool.
are picking up. So I like.
All right, that's good. All our work is not in vain.
Not yet.
Not yet. Looks good. Looks like you're doing a good job anyway.
Well, at least I have.
First of the muffled jets that I've tested, and my gut feeling is the couple of things that were wrong with this exact engine, and they're not wrong. The glow plug was loose, and it was full of oil, of course. I'm sure George just left it in loose knowing I'd test it. I'd take it out. But I did leave a T-bolt, a wrong RC in there for Dennis so he doesn't need to fiddle around and find one of them. It seems to be a little bit on the restrictive side, but again, it would depend what plane you're putting it in. Now, if you put this in an airplane, let's say that, here's my analysis, let's say a Magnum-sized plane, or a 51 Cardinal, you'd really want to get that less restrictive. In a smaller plane, a Stiletto, an Avanti, a Genesis 40 maybe, in a smaller plane, this would be, hey, by the way, this would look, can you picture this in a Brodak Cardinal? Oh my God, shorten the nose an inch. Anyway, just things that come from the test. I'll mail Dennis out the motor tonight with the props, the video, how our test went, and with a gallon of gas through it, it should be pretty much a gallon. It should be ready to stick in the plane and fly. In fact, I'll leave the needle valve set right there. That's always handy to know. Another thing that's handy about this, the motors, even the one that I have, is it's real convenient if you can choke it and immediately flip it. If you let it sit for 30 seconds or pull the prop through by hand, it seems like like it wants to be choked and flipped instantly. That's what I've resolved as the quick start procedure. The motor started hot, cold, medium. It's squeaky tight at the top. Again, a real nice unit. This is something I'd like to, when Bill Hummel, I haven't seen Bill's with, I'd like to see one of these in a 51 Cardinal kit, maybe coming in at about 55 ounces. I think you'd have something really special. Anyway, more on this later. We got some new tooling for our milling machine. We're going to be doing some tune pipe stuff real soon. That's coming. We're making up some jigging and tooling in this end of the shop. We got the big table saw. One of the projects we hope we're going to have soon is a wing jig to build 51 Cardinal wings, shooting for a time of maybe 2 hours to build a whole wing. And Ken's grinding and cutting and playing with the fish and who knows what. Maybe he's even selling drugs here, I don't know. Good place to hide them inside the wings. Now yesterday at the shop we really did have a good time running Dennis's motor in here, and it's a beauty, believe me. Take my word for it, this motor really does have a 2.4 brake. Very, very much like a Tiger 46 or a 60. And I'm only curious because I have probably the same motor. I'm curious if at some point in time I'll put this muffler on or a similar muffler to it for right in Strega, right on the pipe jet. And but that'd be an interesting test. Anyway, we don't really have the time or really the energy to do it, and besides the second part is it's not my muffler. But let me give you a couple of gut impressions from a day of running this motor. Hope you don't mind us kidding around with Kenny and the micrometer. Anyway, this looks like, I'm not measuring it real accurate either. Looks like a 189 or a 190 Venturi. Maybe a 310, 312 back end. The first thing with this setup, with the 189 Venturi, roughly 310 exhaust tube, it seemed happiest on the props, and I'm going to send a half a dozen of these props, both the 11.5, 6.5s, and the 12.4s, which really pitch out to be 12.5s. It seemed real friendly and happy. It wanted to do its braking right in a 9, maybe 9.2, 9.3, 9,500. The only thing that I noticed, and again, this was one of the things, is if we wanted to make more power, what we'd want to do is maybe open this up to 330, 340, whatever, or shorten the tube. Now, the way it is, it's really nice and quiet, but if you put this in a big plane, this may be a problem. So this would be one suggestion. If you're looking for a little more punch, this is one way you're going to get it. The prices you're going to pay in terms of mileage and in terms of noise. But this was a significant find today, and we found the same thing to be true with the pipe version of the engine. When talking to Bill Hummel, we all experienced the same thing in running the muffled versions of the motor. Very friendly starting, and like I said, the trick is to choke and flip instantly, quick flip. A real friendly 2.42. That probably is right up there with the Tigers, if not a little better. Maybe not. I don't know until I would have a couple of years in flying in planes. Extremely low vibration. And that might be one of the advantages it has over a Tiger. If you have a plane that's built with not a real rock-solid nose, this may be a way to get it. Now, these three things combined, to me, this is a very, very good package. And unlike the pipe version, it needs a little more attention to getting the run right. This one, I think you could pretty much bolt right into a plane and go flying. And I'm going to be monitoring this with Dennis. I'm going to send him back the motor tonight. I'll send him a copy of this video and monitor and see what kind of luck. I hope he'll be sending us information, pictures, video. These would be things I'd be thinking of right away when you're putting this in a ship. 650 to 700 inch ship. By the way, a 51 Cardinal would just be perfect for this. Also, I'd be thinking in terms of trying to have the weight in the 55 to 60 ounce range. I don't think this should be even asked to do the jobs that Tiger 60s do of pulling 70 and 75 ounce planes. I think it should be in this range. And a good thing, if the plane comes out a little heavier than this, or if it's a little bigger, or both, you can do what I do with Strega, just use solid lines. And I always have used, all of the flights that have been on Strega have been on full-length 70-foot solid lines. Just some other thoughts on things that'd be worth mentioning. I've always had the best luck with the Thunderbolt 4C, Thunderbolt Long RC. They seem interchangeable. I don't really have a favorite. They both work well. Other plugs I've tried haven't been either a lot better or worse, but these two I know work, so I'm really trying to recommend things I have a couple of hundred flights on. The fuel. Taffender tune pipe fuel, which is 20% oil, 10 castor, 10 clots, or PA, which probably has a little bit too much oil according to George. That's 24% oil. PowerMaster makes the exact fuel that George recommends, so possibly you want to try that. And you don't want it. One thing really to avoid at all costs is putting RC fuel in one of these engines. It's the one thing you don't want to do is stick some fuel that really doesn't have good castor oil in it. Anyway, the compression. Set stock, it's probably going to be good to pull the heaviest of the ships, the biggest of the props. If you're in a lighter ship, let's say if you put this in a 40 size Genesis or a ship with a thin wing, a smaller ship, something that maybe in the 610 range or small ship, hey, Ted Fancher's plane would be an excellent choice here. A light ship, I'd be thinking possibly one extra head gasket, and of course George has copper gaskets and aluminum. The aluminum are thicker than the copper, but let's give you a good baseline. And the real neat thing is George is totally helpful, willing to work with you in every way, email or phone calls. I know he supports his products and he delivers things. I get them in 3 days, and I'm sure everybody else does too. You don't have to call me. Call George direct. He takes care of everybody equally. Believe me on that one. And my thanks to Dennis, and I hope we're going to be sharing information back and forth in the future, sharing everything we learn. That'll be a real great way to make the database grow. Now this is drying a little longer than 48 hours. It's drying an extra day here, but if you look real close, I put the tape on. I'm going to buff out the last end with a little bit of Gorham's just to satisfy myself. I'll send these samples to John. It's an important part of the test. I hope he'll then pass them on to Frank McMillan, and we'll be doing that little rudder later on. This stuff sands amazingly easy. It's just unbelievable to me that this sands this quick and easy, because I've done dope all my life and I've never had anything sand as nice or dry as quick. Anyway, we're going to give this a shot now. Let's look at how this is pathetic how easy this blows. This doesn't even have any clear on it. A couple minutes with the Gorham's is all this is going to take to get this right up. Take a look at the shine, the reflection. I think anybody can live with that. Real nice, and I'll be passing these on to John. I hope he will, again, pass them on to Frank McMillan for his, and with the videos, of course. I know Frank's already working on a ship, full Brodak dope finish. It is to sand it down, because there's no clear, you can see exactly what's on. Usually M600 is the material I like to do, but you could use Windex, you could use water. It doesn't take a lot of sanding to get this back down flat. Because the material isn't gumming up and sliming up. You want to clean that, get all the garp off it. Guess I probably should have put 2 coats of yellow on that, in fact. A little bit of Gorham's, you don't even need to use another rag. Yeah, it was fun. The Jett, now I have a little more data in my database, and I hope that database is going to continue to grow. And we hope our little database for the Brodak dope is going to grow, because that's the way we're able to help people the most. And I've taken too much off here, but again, this is not 2 coats of yellow, and you can see that the gloss on it is pretty reasonable. and it's very, very quick to come up.
I wanted to get out here early this morning. You can see the air is dead. This is the most dangerous condition of all at this field. When this air goes dead, you got to backpedal like crazy. But I wanted to start off with, I have the Venturi open to 225. I want to try it with and without an air filter. And then I brought some hot water to do a little prop deep pitching if necessary with that size Venturi. This up yesterday at George's shop. It's a helicopter tail boom, super thin wool, and it looks like it's nice, either 60-61, the way it anodized up real nice. Looks real nice. George anodizes these, of course, in the anodizing shop. Now, one of the things, I'm going to see if I can use this to make header, extensions or whatever. And I think this will be a little bit better than the material we already have. Good thing you can find these in hobby shops. They're in the $10 to $20 range. Thin wall and very good quality aluminum. And if you want it anodized, hey, send it to me. Now I got all the props out, and I wanted to do some work with the plane. We got one of the guys in the club learning how to fly here with an unmuffled plane, so you really have to wait until he's not flying. But what I wanted to try, I have the prop with the door corner, whatever the hell you want to call it, tip. Hey, how you doing, guy?
Okay there, young man. You still got your finger on the trigger there.
Yeah. We haven't really given this a fair shot yet. I want to give this a couple flights, but of course I'll get a couple square one flights, make sure we're somewhere in the ballpark here before we start going through this. Want to start off, this is pretty much the prop we were using in Massachusetts. We use that as our square one prop today, but I want to try that, I don't know what we would even call it, the vortex tip prop. Really give it a fair shot. I've got a little bit of the pitch taken out of it, just a bit. You can hardly see a hair under one side of the pitch gauge. We've run this prop before, but with the stock pitch. I've never run it with the pitch lowered like this, so again, I have the boiling water here if I want to just give that just a little less pitch. It seemed just a little high the last time we ran it.
I thought it was
over on the back circle today. This is Lincoln Park Day, and they got a bunch of kids here that are teaching how to fly. Mike Kajeski and his daughter. There we go. Come on, Jamie, don't let the kid crash. Oh, no. Anyway, just remember, if you don't have any new kids coming in, we're going to be the last of the dinosaurs here. They got a bunch of kids there, too. And I've been trying to coordinate. See, I just can't get any time to do flights while these other guys are flying. Because what I really want to do is record the sound of the motor for George. It really isn't the stunt patterns, it's the motor runs I want. I have one flight on this prop so far at 11,000 launch. And it seems like it's real close. I just want to go 100 RPM up and 100 RPM down to make sure I have some range. 10,000 launch on the Brodak prop.
Now, in the dead air conditions that we have here right now, and 11,000 launch, it seems like I still kind of like the Todd Lee prop, the one that I undercambered a little bit. In fact, I like that one a little bit better than the flat bottom one, but that's why we go back and forth, because come contest day, if it's dead air, you want to notice ahead of time. What I'm trying to do is go back and forth. I've been up to 11.1 and down to about 10.8 with this prop, and this prop, it's a 12-inch diameter prop. And it has some unique characteristics. I don't know, it seems to, even though I have a lot of the pitch taken out at the tip, maybe I've destroyed what the initial intent was with these little vortices, but it still seems, and I want to keep going with this prop, a couple more flights. You can hear all the background noise. It's almost impossible to squeeze a flight in that's worth recording here. The air is stone dead too, you got to back up, so, but I can still get my initial comparisons. And because this is only 12 inches in diameter and the other one is 12.25, the other one still seems a little stronger, especially when it's going slow. But again, we don't know. This is only one condition, one temperature. Maybe out on a runway this would be a killer, but right now the Todd Lee prop is still a winner. I've been running the whole day here with a 225 Venturi with a black filter. Now what I want to try now, I want to go back, take the filter out, that'll in effect open up the Venturi quite a bit, and see if that extra little boost, especially with the Vortex tip prop, how that's going to relate to, well, maybe a little power increase or just putting us in or out of the range that we want to use this prop in. I made a bunch of little notes of things the last couple of sessions I was out. If I can start crossing the ones that are off or done. I bought another big large rubber stinger that belongs on a 90 to 120 size motor. I wanted to try that. I wanted to go back and try one copper gasket. We have one aluminum one in there. Again, it may seem like a lot of this is just going redundant, but the temperature has changed. We're a good 20 degrees cooler than we were last time we tried this. And this is how you build a data bank, is just by saving note after note after note. I've got all the RPMs written down, all the props. Without notes, it's just difficult. It's not difficult, it's impossible to remember all this stuff. Or how significant a restriction these filters are. So what I want to do is I want to try, this is going to be because I haven't really got a lot of flights on this prop, I want to try it with the 225 wide open. That should give it just a little more boost. Maybe bring it into the range where this is really going to be a killer. I don't know yet. I just remembered something I wanted to mention. On Dennis's rear exhaust muffled motor, when you look at how the muffler is attached to the back of the motor, then it goes up and back, what you really want to do is get a pipe strap around the end of that muffler for sure, because that muffler in time is going to wind up vibrating and distorting. It's caught on a very little area around the exhaust. The exhaust top to bottom is only maybe a 3/8 of an inch, maybe a half, I don't know. But what you really want to do is confine that back end in a tune pipe connector if you possibly can. A tune pipe little mount and a zip tie. That'll save you. And I had the same problem, by the way, with the Stalker. 5 flights later, that started moving and shaking, and the baffles fell out of it and everything. But once I put it in the tune pipe connector, it was a good tip worth using on the muffled versions of these motors. Yeah, the last couple of flights have really been interesting with the Venturi wide open, and that's a 225 wide open, and this Vortex prop. It really gets up on the pipe. I'm really impressed with it. It was really being held back by that filter, of course, with this prop. And that's not the case with the other prop, and I believe the reason is the other prop probably has just a little more pitch. But this right here, Venturi wide open, we're launching at 11.1, 11.2. It just comes right to life. The parts of the flight where it really is on the pipe, boy, it's pretty impressive. whenever I finish a flight and I'm happy with, kind of happy with that last flight, keep in mind the air is really good. I want to get out my little notepad. I want to make a note of what the air conditions were. In this case it was dead air. It's 72 degrees. This is just for my own reference. Vortex prop. Launch at 11.1. 18.5 pipe length. Open 225. Now, as silly as these notes all sound, it sounds like I'm loading up a computer. When I go back into my box later on and I come across a day that's really hot like this, I want to have some idea of what worked today. Now, I want to go through my other props. This one is definitely one that's in the bank. We're going to keep the big one I'll call the Todd Lee prop that I undercambered and have just a little bit of, just the slightest amount of pitch taken out of it. Almost exactly stock except for the pitch. Just the slightest little bit. Keep this in my inventory. This is one that's going to stay in the box. Also going to keep the Vortex prop, and I want to start working with one of Dennis Toth's props. Dennis's props are significantly smaller in blade area, at least this one is. Well, it isn't really. I cut this down. It's got less blade area, a bit less diameter. And again, I want to try to get 4 or 5 different combinations today. Host prop, 12.1, de-pitched. Dennis's prop, we've got de-pitched just a little bit too much. It just gets a little weak. This would be fine in open air, runway air, it'd be fine. But rather than change it, I want to keep this for a runway setup. I'll make all my little notations and then move on to the next prop in the series. Mike Cooper is here with his Cardinal, and I'm going to basically spend a good part of the afternoon with him trying to get it trimmed out. He's got a brand new Tiger 60 in it, and we can work on props and stuff in between working on Strega. But he is a good learner, believe me. This is one of the guys. You give him an hour of your time and you see results right away. He doesn't try to reinvent the wheel. Of course, I'm just doing some real fine-tuning here. These are props that have already been worked on. I want to take just a little pitch out of this. Obviously, if you have good calluses on your hands, you won't burn yourself. Boil in water, 5 seconds. And this is just to get in the ballpark. Either take a bit of pitch out, especially if you have a limited number of props. Now what I try to do is have a prop already done with a gauge, but in this case I want to take this prop and just by eye take out maybe 1 point of pitch. And when you do this enough, believe me, you can do it by eye. 90% of it you can do, then just go home and check it on a gauge. If you get it real close to where it works, it's more important that it works than that it's just at some specific number. This one looks like it's going to be fine. And obviously don't burn yourself. That is 212 degree water, and this resin softens at 165, so and your hands burn at about, I don't know, at something real close to this. So anyway, you can do a little fine tuning right at the field. When you're all done, make a cup of tea. For Mike, we've been fine-tuning this plane this morning, and the wind is already getting crazy, so I want to do a little quick Phillips entry on this prop for him. Phillips entry would just be the back of the material taken off. This whole part almost meaningless, but this last little bit really important. Most of what's going to happen is if you just do this part out here, and I've done this test many times, just take this part and work it forward. It in effect gives the pitch. It acts like it's working and having more pitch. You can also take some, you can see how thick these props are, take some off the back. But again, then you have a special one-of-a-kind prop. And this, what we're just looking for is just a little more drive. We've already gotten to the end of the motor run, and that usually will work real well. Handy way to do this is to use, these are Bud McKnight sanding sticks, formerly known as commercial nail files that the women use when they do fingernails. Real nice for wooden props, and of course then a rebalance job before you use it again is in order. And out at the tip is where it really matters. That last inch, inch and a quarter is what's going to do all the work. Down in here it's more cosmetic, and this is what lets it do the work right out here. Now conversely, you want to take some of this. So in effect, we're going to add a little pitch to this prop. Make it a little more aerodynamically clean. And this, like the boil in water, we can do this right at the field. You can see the results almost between flights while somebody else is flying. After a long day at the field, a long hot day, it's good to come home to a shower and into the fish. Oh yeah, I know they're hungry. Actually, the weather report for tomorrow morning is pretty decent, and I hope I'm going to get out there for, well, I got a couple more props to test, and hey, we are using that 225 without a filter of any kind. That's really starting to move up in the power range here, up over 11,000 launch RPM. Our little test pieces are all dried up, and I'll be passing this right on back on to John. Now I was looking to see, and I guess you really can't tell, we're going to need to do more of this, but just which of the sides of this had a better binding. If one side bubbled and the other one didn't. My original feeling was you could put the Rejuvinator right over raw wood, and then especially on fillets because it has such good penetrating power. Maybe that's going to be, well, you know, hey, we're going to try. We're trying. This is long time consuming stuff to get this figured out. And I'm sure the world of stunt will benefit from the knowledge that we gain. Well, the fish will gain. Oh, I love my fish. I hate to see it, but summer is definitely ending. Fall is coming. The days are getting shorter. And we have really enjoyed the backyard, the fish, the frogs, and we hope you've enjoyed sharing it with us. Just as if you lived here. Today's mail, I got some video here from Argentina. This is from Claudio Chacon. I'm going to watch this with my wife later. Just want to get an idea. He's got some team racing and some stunt on this. How cool is it that you can exchange videos from Argentina? Obviously, these guys are serious about team racing. Let me put a minute or two of footage of what these guys are flying in Argentina. Claudio and I go way back. We've exchanged a lot of pictures. He always invites me to come to his contest in Argentina, you know. Hey, there's an easy way to get me there, Claudio. Come and pick me up with your personal Learjet. Anyway, we'll be sending him some videos out. We'll send him one of these George Aldrich videos. Hey, appreciate the footage. And just imagine, here we are outside of New York City, and they're in Argentina. They're watching Strega, and we're watching these guys fly. I think that is just so cool. I'm going to take a wild guess what design this is. Ah! The Argentine Cardinal. Look at this. Fantastic. Nice lettering job, by the way. Look at it, even put my name on it. Look at this. Cool. Claudio, you are definitely okay. Big Jim's name on it. Must have a Tiger 60 in it. The Argentine world champion here. Cool. Cool as can be. Claudio Chacon. Claudio, in fact, I'm going to send you a copy of this video. Look at this. I love that rudder shape.
Looks like the finish is real nice. Well, see, you don't have to worry when you send the tape, Claudia, because my wife speaks very good Spanish, so it's no problem. In fact, she speaks French and Italian, too. Anyway, Claudia, we really appreciate the exchange of video, and we'll definitely be sharing this with quite a few people, and even in the club. I think people at Bill Cardinals like Mike Cooper today, we were working with him. Anyway, Claudia, that was a good take, and I really appreciate you sending it.
Fortunately, we have an unflyable couple of days here lately. So what I decided to do now, this was the cowl that I made for the I-beam Spitfire. Well, all I want to do now, and this is really the whole point of what's real nice about having this is a rubber mold. Anybody that's been watching those videos, of course, this is kind of an easy no-brainer to make this mold up. Though I want to cast up another one, because when I put the Jett into the Spitfire, I don't need this hole quite as big, and I can make a little bit different hole up here. The Jett has the venturi further forward. So now just imagine if I didn't have a cowl mold, right now I'd be off to the races carving up another block. Well, right now having this mold, it's only a matter of maybe a half an hour and I'll have me another cowling. In Caesar's video, we were watching it over and over the other night, in fact, and they're doing some motor work here, and there's only one problem with my Spanish is non-existent, and my wife's is okay, but there's a lot of the technical things she's not sure she understands. But anyway, there's some interesting points in there. They're doing basically to a Tiger 51 exactly what we've done, hemi out the head, change the porting, that kind of thing. Anyway, interesting video, again, over and over. Now, again, when you see how easy it is to just make up another cowl, boy, if we had a mold for Strega, that is the last one that I don't have a mold for. And to come out, and now you have a nice new, boy, screws don't come popping out, the edges don't get ratty. Just a shame we never made a mold for Strega. Did a really handy, what I found with this particular mold was using half-ounce cloth, a brand new scalpel blade, or an XL blade, whichever you just happen to have, and cutting over stacked newspaper seems to be the easiest way to get your blanks cut. And anytime you can get more glass and less resin into the mold, obviously the advantage is it'll be stronger and lighter at the same time. Always, I either get some Cabasil or some Q-Sils mixed up with a little bit of the resin, make up a little paste. If you don't make this kind of a mixture, you'll never get the corners and edges real nice. Again, this you just want to pack into the corners if you've never seen one of these done. And again, we're going to be doing more and more of this. I'm in the middle of doing an article for Model Aviation on molding. More things are coming. And I hope ultimately we're going to wind up, needless to say, at having the dream ship, the full fiberglass fuse ship that basically cut a lot of the building time out once we get the molds perfected. But we're going one step at a time. And I think that's the right way to approach any kind of project like this. When you're new to a kind of a new typical technology, now you want to make this thick so it doesn't slime off. Anything that has a corner or an edge, this acts pretty much like gel coat does. Again, for cowling, you can use a real easy resin like West Systems resin, very inexpensive, very easy to use. Like to wet out the mold. Again, this is a rubber mold. We have this on video for anybody that really wants to make one of these. And we're going to be doing one for Rich Jacobone's Cardinal soon, so that we'll have an additional Cardinal mold We have Midgley's customized thing, but we'd like a standard Cardinal mold too. Again, we want to make sure each layer of the material is wet right through. Method is to use just a quick patting method. Everybody, of course, will ultimately have a little different method. And I developed this in the course of making 4 master molds and right now, I think about 100 Brodak Cardinal molds. Brodak Nobler molds, which, by the way, have proven to be very successful. That's been one of our real success stories, is fiberglass cowlings. Now, you can make a real gain by using a lot of thin layers. You really can load up the mix with a lot of cloth and squeeze out a lot of the resin. And one of the things we could do here is make up an extra cowling and use it as a male plug just to force out the resin. But these are certainly coming out good enough, the ones we've made already. And again, just patting down each layer. I'm going to use 10 layers of half-ounce cloth here. But instead of using 1 or 2 thicker layers, and this was my original plan for when we ever get to do these fiberglass fuselages, one of the things was to get this ratio really high to where there's a lot of cloth. Actually, the EAA calls for 52% of the weight to be cloth. So that would mean only 48 of the resin by weight. Let me get the phone. Every time I do this, again, this is so painless relative to carving another block, especially on a complex shape. And the other part is it's totally duplicatable. In other words, if we knew we had a plane like Strega and we wanted to get rid of a little bit of the nose weight, I'd make this up with 8 layers or 6 layers or something and take a chance that it would just be a little flimsy. But I'm wetting each layer out real carefully and making sure I keep plenty of the Q cells packed up in the nose section in that little groove.
We got one more piece of the I-beamer. We can't wait to get this started, I'm telling you. A couple of weeks we'll be working on this full time. George Aldrich asked me to make a little mention of something. I want to do it right now. That the engine that we're testing is a GMA Jett 50, not a Jett 50. A Jett 50, for people that might not know, is really like a racing or a pylon high output engine. His engine is totally different, and it's only available from George Aldrich. Not available from Jett. He doesn't even list it in the catalog. George asked me to just mention that.
Something real quick. Anytime you get done doing a layup, an epoxy layup, you almost always, even if you have rubber gloves on, you wind up with some under your fingernails or somewhere in your nose or whatever. And what I always do, as soon as I'm done, I've made a real meticulous habit of this, almost like a doctor. I've got a scrub brush with a little stone on one side, and I've been doing this for a couple of years now, and so far I know other people that have been working with these epoxies for a long time wind up developing problems. So I've been real careful now. The one thing you never want to do is use acetone to clean. Acetone will clean it right off your hands, but it drives some of it right down into your skin. I found the best thing, and people that do professional layups all the time almost always wind up using just plain old lava soap and a real good scrub brush to clean their hands in between layups, and that is a good tip.
I have one of Dennis Toast's raw carbon props to work on, but what I wanted to do, because I can do this while the gear is drying. I want to lay up one of the carbon fiber gear prototypes. I know Bill Hummel is waiting for one to test, and we'll try to get him one soon, as soon as we can get a couple of serviceable ones out of the mold. Anyway, these props have really proven to be a big help, Dennis. I appreciate it.
This prototype that came out of here was, granted, a little rough, but I redid the mold in such a way. This is now light ply. It's a little harder, should give us more pulls from the mold. I want to get a piece of that clear plastic stuff to get hopefully a reasonably nice finish on there. And since we've already done this on camera, I'll lay this up off camera. But this is going to be in model aviation soon. This is one of the things they really expressed a lot of interest in, because of course you can use it for RC. Once you can make up, and even this is just a very, very basic wood mold, you can really get into making some custom parts. We're going to try to make one for Rich Jacobone's Cardinal too, so that we'll have a replacement part right on the shelf. Test, once I lay the mold up, this is just a test with ordinary Mylar, and I picked this tip up from the glider people. Jeff Stifel's been getting me information off the internet that the glider people use this all the time. Interesting to see if we're going to be getting serviceable parts out of here soon, or I have several other ways. I talked to George Spohr about making a mold where you could basically make one continuous piece and then slice them off, and that we haven't ruled out that idea, but I think this idea, making one at a time, that would probably saturate the market sooner or later. Okay, in today's mail I got a really nice, really nice letter from Bill Hummel. He of course is flying this is the Cardinal kit that Glenn Kaler, I don't know what the financial arrangements were, swapped them, gave them, stole from them. Just check this out. We got some of this flying on, and he said it flew right off the board. We talked in the morning last week, and I basically added him. He was wondering about how much tip weight to use, and hopefully got that resolved by now. I'm making up a car. In fact, I may send him this carbon fiber gear to use as a little test. Anyway, Bill Hummel's Cardinal. Now another thing Bill just mentioned to me, he's going to be using a he's going to use the side exhaust Jett that he already has, the GMA Jett in his Valkyrie. Oh man, would that be the right motor for that plane. Anyway, he says it's coming along good and they're going to start having their Monday nights at Scotty's. Okay, this is from Nancy Bocamino from the Flushing Group, and she says, this is a couple of pictures you're really going to love. This is the before picture. Neil Beekman, before and after. Boy, I'll tell you. We know how that feels, Nancy. Crash repair videos coming up. Now, this is Nancy's little handwritten caption, and I'll read it. She's got, well, we'll put it out here, the heck with it. Hey, what do we care, Nancy, right? Prima donnas of Flushing. I hope you guys like this. Mitch Dressler especially. Mitch, you'd look good in a tutu and a skirt, believe me. Well, Eddie Maria still has 2 Cardinals. This guy crashed 2 Cardinals in one day. You believe that? He really did. It's not a joke. And John Cebini's Banshee. Now, anybody who doesn't know, John Cebini has one of these motor collections. He's probably got about 2,000 motors in his collection, I think. This is Nancy's photos of John Cebini flying, laying down in Flushing. Hey, good to see Ronnie Heckler still flying. Ron Heckler, this is a stiletto wing original. Now this is Lenny Malia. He crashed 2 Cardinals. This is the only one he has that he hasn't crashed. He crashed 2 in one day. Lenny, we love you, guy. What does he call us? The swinger? The stinger? I can't read upside down. You don't know Frank's last name, but he is one of the elder statesmen. He's always out there at Flushing. Always one of the fun guys to hang around with. Picture of Paul Torres and his Banshee. Hey, check Lampione out. Lampione without the American flag pants. Can you imagine? Bob, I didn't know you had normal clothes like that. Jim Borelli's new Wind Dancer. Boy, this would be a perfect plane for a Jet 50. Bill DeMarco's real nice SV11. Beautiful. Otto's little twin built from a kit. I believe that's a stolen kit. Hey, speaking of that, the Julia's got a twin coming. Jack Reisman with his little stallion. Talk about prima donnas row. Oh, man. Henry Kessler, Otto, I can't even say the name, Okazul, top row. Tom Lee, and this guy here. Some special tribute worth going to this guy. And boy, I was so happy to see in the AMA magazine they're finally starting to recognize people for the Hall of Fame that are not national, I don't know, competitors, I guess is the right word. This guy, if there's anybody in the world ever belonging in the Hall of Fame, he's right there, boy. He has helped literally thousands of people. He's also a Purple Hearts recipient. He alone is responsible for maintaining the field out at Flushing. Hey, Dick, we all owe you a debt of gratitude. And even if they never elect you, Dick, hey, believe me, you have my vote. I just spoke to Bob Lampione the other day. He's busy. Probably should have his new plane finished by the spring of who knows when. Anyway, Bob, we know you got other personal things. Just got married, has a new apartment, new workshop. Hey, we're looking forward to having some fun with you this summer coming up. Hope you can make some more of the contests. Here's the woman responsible for about half of the pictures we get from Flushing. Her and Andy Lee both. Always contributing pictures. Nancy, thanks a whole lot. Hey, we love you, girl. Hey, get out there flying. And she says next year they're going to be flying triples. They're already doing double stunt patterns. Next year, triples. Nancy Bocamino. Thanks for the photos, Nance. Anyway, this is a little from the mold, a prototype. Again, I know we're going to be making more of these. But this will give us a little gauge on how well the mold worked. The mold seems to be in pretty good shape. Didn't even tear up any of the paint. So the mold obviously is usable. Now the only question I have, I made this out of very thin material. You can see the impression on it. Now, I don't think this is really going to be strong enough, but one of the options I have right now is I can scrape off some of this Mylar and I can lay out some extra material right on top of this. So again, this will be one of our prototypes. When we start getting these coming out of the mold in real nice shape, we'll send one out to Bill Hummel for a little road test. Again, we're going to be working with this more and more as the time goes by. We have new materials to try, and I'll be looking forward to getting some of these out into the world and seeing how they work. Safe to see, based on what we've seen of the Jett 50s so far, the GMAs. We're going to be seeing a lot of these in the future, and I look forward to even doing some flight testing on one of these if we can get it fit into a plane. It really doesn't fit into Strega because I have the mounts really gouged out. I'm sure Dennis is not going to want me to do that, but really look forward to seeing how these motors work out once they get in the hands of people in various size planes. A great motor, a real nice little motor. These are all the test parts. They're all banded up. Even the fillet test, we'll be getting those out to John Brodak today. And I hope he will pass these all on to Frank McMillan for his reference too. Been just doing a little bit of catch-up lately off camera, trying to get some extra cowls made up. We've been making up a couple extra, do a lot of the Aries cowlings, but the Noblers, if there ever was one cowling that I have really, even in my own career, looked forward not to carving. Anyway, we have a good supply of them now, and we have 4 molds. We can make 4 in one day, so there's no chance we're going to run out of Nobler cowlings in the year to come. Pete, don't worry, I have your wallet on display here. I love that Spitfire wallet. And old Joe Adamusco's home getting his Spitfire ready for the upcoming season. Oh man, so many things to do. Tune pipes should be coming out of the molds here real soon. We should be getting a couple of these. I'd even like to get one tested real soon before the end of the season if we can. Midgley's making up the baffles as we speak. Hopefully I'll have them within the next week and get a couple of these put together. Us and Wayne have been supplying us with prop blanks, so I can do plenty of carving and fooling and try to get as much done now. This will all, I hope, roll into the next year to get the I-beamer ready, have as much of this done right now, so we're ready to go come springtime next year. Oh man, I see Spitfires in my dreams already. We'll be working on that cowling probably in the next couple of days. If we get any unflyable days, we'll get some more work done on this guy, making component parts. We're going to be running an ad in Stunt News to see what kind of response we get to these tapes. I'm sure it'll be good because nobody's ever put this information, nobody I know of anyways, ever put this on tape before. They say it's nice to have these cups both in the shop. Yeah, finish that I-beamer up. I need a plane to go in. Get Georgino's pilot ready. Let's end the tape with a special thanks to both of these gentlemen. John, I don't know where the hobby really would be without your efforts, and George, hey, it goes without saying, I'm on the team here, I hope. Hope you guys don't trade me to Denver. Anyway, thanks to everybody that's shared the videos, pass them around. We are sneaking right up on having 20,000 of these videos made in 11 years. And it's a fact I'm really proud of. I really hope the people that are passing them around, making copies, you've gotten a lot out of them. Please share the information and make Stunt grow. We'll see you on the next tape. Predicting nice weather tomorrow. I hope they're right. Now just get a look at this. With this picture on the wall, you fade the black over here. Oh man. Okay, and a special thanks to you, Milton. That is some nice picture, and that is permanently in the shop. One final note, I just heard from Brent Jordan. He's going to be sending us the latest Reno video. For anybody out there who loves those Reno air races, hey, you always know where you can get a copy. Good friends in England, don't let me forget you. John, Paul, hey, you guys, these guys, now the smartest thing, they bought an American VCR so they can play windy tapes. And they have, I don't know, probably the second or third biggest collection on the planet right now. Probably making bogus copies and selling them without telling me. Hey, I hope you guys had a great time. We loved having you at the Nats.